Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
Hi, I'm Kim Lepre from the Teachers Need Teachers podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hello, EduMagicians. It's Dr. Sam. I wanted to let you know that all this week, new episodes of the podcast will be dropping. Why, you ask? Well, because I'm super thankful for all of you. I'm thankful for all the future teachers out there listening to this show, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for your hard work, your dedication to becoming an educator of excellence, and for showing up each day for your students. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you. Hey, EduMagicians, it's giveaway time. So at the end of the week, on Friday the 27th, I will be giving away a copy of EduMagic, a guide for pre-service teachers, and the all-new digital Spring 2021 agenda from the EduMagic Planner. I am so excited for this giveaway. So let's talk about how do you get this awesome giveaway? So I'm really excited about this giveaway. Remember, just drop a rating and review. Screenshot it, tag me over on Instagram at @sfessage, and use hashtag EduMagic. And then on Friday, stay tuned for the winner. Remember, the winner will get a copy of the EduMagic, a guide for pre-service teachers, and the digital download for the Spring 2021 agenda. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the EduMagic podcast. My name is Dr. Sam Fessich, and today I am joined with Kim Lepre, who is an amazing educator, new teacher supporter, and she was actually one of the first podcast episodes that I was on about 2 years ago, and I'm so excited to welcome her to my show. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I can't believe that was 2 years ago.
I know, time flies, right?
Yeah.
Kim, before we jump into our content today about supporting new teachers, can you walk us through your teaching journey and what inspired you to become an educator and where you are today?
Sure, I'll try to keep it short. So I basically started out in college as a piano performance major, and I realized that it's really, really lonely because I spent a lot of time by myself in a practice room. And I really liked working with kids. I had done it before in high school, and I thought, I think I'd probably have more luck and more satisfaction if I taught music. And so then I switched over to music education. So I did that for 10 years as a band director. And then for whatever reason, some people think it's weird, I kind of started getting interested in teaching English, which is not like band at all. And people are like, are you crazy? But I also was motivated by the fact that I wanted to spend more time with my daughter, and band takes a lot of time away from your family. So I took basically like the test for teachers, the CSET in California, so that I could have a credential to teach English. And so I've been doing that for the past 9 years, and my favorite grade to teach is 7th grade. I love them. I totally get them. I love being that bridge between elementary school and being the independent middle schooler that they need to be to prepare them for high school. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's just been kind of having a purpose and having a certain drive to want to help kids, but just doing it through different forms, first in music and now in English.
I like that. So you now teach at a year-round school. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? And were you always interested in teaching at a school that goes year-round?
I wasn't. And the thing is that our district started out with 2 schedules. So half the district was on a regular schedule, and the other half of the district was on a year-round schedule, and it was crazy and it was stupid, especially when it comes to sports. So if you are a year-round person and you're on your break and everyone else is still in school, you can't really go on vacation because you got to play sports. Same thing with music. So finally, they decided that we were going to, after many, many, many years, decades, we were going to be on one schedule. So we actually start in mid-July, the third week of July, and then we have a 2-week fall break, the last week of September into the first week of October. Then we get a break, 1 week break for Thanksgiving, 3 weeks off for winter break, 2 weeks off for spring break. And then our summer compared to other districts is only, quote unquote, only 6 weeks. So while we do get a shorter summer and sometimes it's not very fun to go to school in the middle of the summer when it's really hot, but we have air conditioning. I really do love the little breaks, and the kids, I feel like their stamina is a lot better because we can take these frequent breaks and then we can regroup and be fresh. It's like, not the first day of school, but you know what I mean? We come back, relax and reset, and then we can dive into heavier things. So I actually do a lot of my planning based on the breaks. I make sure that we're not doing anything too heavy before or after, like immediately after, but I feel like I can gear up better because they have more mental bandwidth.
That's really neat. I like that. I've never taught at a year-round school, but I know people who have, and they talk about that same thing, that mental bandwidth. They're just rejuvenated after their break and then coming back fresh and ready to go. So Kim, I know you're all about supporting new teachers. Where did that passion come from, and how do you support new educators?
It started when I was still I started teaching English around that time, and I had a brand new teacher who moved to San Diego. He didn't know anyone, and he came, and I saw a lot of potential in him, and I thought, you know what, I am going to take you under my wing, and I'm going to make sure that we set you up properly for success here. And we didn't at that point have an official beginning teacher induction program in our district. People had to go through some kind of outside agency like a university or the county to get like a real credential. So the first one that you get when you graduate is called preliminary. And then after that, you have to basically like intern and have a mentor those first couple of years of teaching to make sure that you're okay, that you really got it, and that you're going to survive. So I just took him under my wing, and I started doing that with a few other new teachers as they came in. And when we officially had an induction program, I signed up for it. I was one of the first people to sign up. And it's been really satisfying because I feel like there's so much that you guys at the university don't have time to teach them. And so I hear a lot of, oh, we didn't learn this. And I'm thinking, well, it's not because the university necessarily neglected to teach you those things or they didn't know any better. It's just, there's a lot to cram in, and there's a lot of foundational stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of foundational stuff too, especially in your, credentialing program. Some people say, why do I need to know educational theory? Well, you need to understand how people learn. You need to understand, just basic cognitive theory and basic behavior management. I know it may not all seem very practical until you're doing your student teaching, but I don't necessarily fault universities for not covering everything. And a lot of times those credentialing programs are only a year. So in any case, I figured, well, there are a lot of things that new teachers need to know that are site specific and district specific. And so I really got into helping as many teachers as I could fit into my schedule. And I realized they were all asking the same questions and having the same concerns. And so during this time, I was also blogging, addressing those common questions and concerns. And then it just sort of transitioned into a podcast because I got tired of blogging, and a podcast sounded really fun. And so then that's what I do on my podcast is I think of topics that new teachers are struggling with at certain times of the year, and I address those to help them out.
And you do it very well. You talk about strategies for job interviews, and you talk about classroom management, and then you're going into instructional activities. When you cover a lot of topics in your podcast that really relate to those new teachers. In your opinion, what are some of the most common areas that new teachers need support with?
I think first I would say the mindset. So even though we promote growth mindset, a lot of times we don't have that for ourselves. And we come in with this vision from our teachers, from maybe TV and movies of what teachers are supposed to be like. And then when we are faced with these kids, it's not playing out how the movie was. It's not playing out how our teacher was. And, we imagine just this classroom that's just really maybe in control, or maybe where everyone is actively participating because we had that experience as a student, and we are trying to figure out what is the magic that they have that made that happen. And we think that as soon as we walk in the door, that's going to happen, and it doesn't. And so I think a big one is just that growth mindset of it's going to be difficult, just like for a child learning how to crawl or walk, it's going to be difficult, but you just forge ahead and remember why you went into it in the first place. You have to, see the goal. You have to know that it's only rough for the first few years, and it definitely gets better. And so along with that, a huge issue that they bring up is classroom management. And it's because they don't really know what's working for them yet because they're so new. So there's a classroom management based on what they saw. Maybe they saw punishment and humiliation, timeouts, or just being called out in front of the class. Maybe their own personal style is they just want to be a little more relaxed and easy and have a softer voice. And so that might not be working for their particular environment. And it's just this dance between them and the students. And I see some of them also secretly being intimidated by the students, even though they're younger than them. It's sort of like, how am I going to control you is the sense that I get. And I try to impart the fact that you can't really control kids. This isn't about control and compliance. How can you keep them engaged and intrinsically motivated enough where you don't have to control them? They have enough of a rapport with you that they want to do well for you, and they want to do well for themselves. And then another really huge one, obviously, is time management, because as new teachers, again, with the growth mindset, they feel like they have to do everything. So they have to have the Pinterest-worthy classroom. They have to have the really cute worksheets with the nice font and all of the pictures. And, they have to post on their Instagram their outfit of the day. I mean, all of those on top of planning and grading and connecting and responding to parents and building community, it's a bit much. And so I think they're not necessarily making the priorities that have the best impact in their classrooms. There's just so much shiny stuff, especially on social media. They want to start a YouTube channel. Now they want to start a TikTok channel. And it really takes time away from their teaching instead of just focusing on what they're doing. Plus, then they start comparing themselves to others.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that you can't go down that road. You got to be authentically you in the classroom, and you can't be any other teacher but the one that you were made to be. And can you talk about mindsets? Are there any habits or routines that new teachers can start getting into so they can have a successful school year? Maybe they're either habits that they do for self-care or habits and routines that they do within the classroom with their students.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest thing that they can do is schedule all of their time and really be disciplined in terms of trying to stick to that schedule as much as possible, but also being flexible. So, for example, on Sunday, it's a really good idea to plan out your week and even your planning periods. Like, what am I going to do? Especially, let's say for me, I have a planning period every other day. How am I going to use that wisely? Because tomorrow, the next day I won't have a planning period. So if something falls through, I won't have time to fix it. So scheduling that time, scheduling time to grade, and staying off the phone during that time when you're going to grade. And maybe you are going to grade at home, and that's completely fine as long as you're planning for it and it doesn't become where it's pushed off to home, and where you feel like, oh, I got to take this home. Well, if I use my planning period for something else, maybe I had to make copies. Well, not anymore, but maybe, when we were in school, I had to make copies or have a conference or something that I could only do in school. And now I have to grade at home. Then I'm going to still schedule in my workout, schedule in cooking and eating with my family, schedule in, whatever, getting ready, meditation, and I'm going to schedule in my hour for grading. And that way, there's a lot less resentment around it because it's something that you planned for. And when you get there, you can be in the right mindset because it's like, okay, I have this hour to grade. I'm going to use this as well as I can because I want to get as much as I can done so I don't have to do this again tomorrow. So my phone is off, the kids are in bed or preoccupied, and I'm going to put a do not disturb sign on my door, and I am going to just whatever it is, grade or planned. And I think that if they can stick to that and stay organized in terms of like being really purposeful with their time, then they find themselves having to use less of their free time on the weekends and things like that for school. And I think that work-life balance is something that we all kind of fall out of. We fall out of balance at some point, but especially in our first years of teaching.
I love how you shared being purposeful with your time, managing your time, scheduling stuff in. And now during, remote teaching, or if we have students who are doing, or new teachers that are doing hybrid or face-to-face or any sort of combination of those, what do new teachers need now as in support or strategies or tips? So what kind of tips do you have for the new teachers that just started their first year and it just happens to be fall 2020?
Yeah, so we've been in school for a month now, and I've had a chance, and I'm a veteran teacher, obviously, and I'm strong with the technology, but I've had to rethink how I deliver content. I've had to rethink what it means what teaching looks like. So, and in many ways, I feel like a new teacher again, because the things that worked before, I can't do. So I can't read the room because not everyone has their camera on. Or even if it was hybrid where I was with them sometimes, half their face is covered with a mask. So I can't read the room. And not everyone is participating online. They may not have a device. They may not have good Wi-Fi. They may have a younger brother or sister who they have to watch. And these are all things that I have to take into consideration. I have to remember that when they don't participate, when they don't do my assignment, it's not about me. And I really had to get over that. It's not because they are doing it to spite me. It's not because of some weakness in my teaching. It's because life is really interrupting what teaching and learning looks like right now. So I think that reframing our expectations, and we all have this dream of what it's going to look like our first year of teaching with our amazing classroom and, being able to have fun with the kids and all these amazing icebreakers and stuff. And you have to really rethink that, especially online or even hybrid. I mean, you can't have them do a scavenger hunt. They have to stay in their seat the whole time. So icebreakers mean something different, and connecting with your students looks different. A lot of times I find myself kind of like on a live stream, like on YouTube, where I'm talking. I don't see any faces. I'm just talking into the camera, and there are comments in the chat. So I feel like a YouTube star here, but it's a little bit, at first it was just like, what? This is so impersonal. But the more you open up and are vulnerable about it, the students will start to show their personalities in the chat. And you'll see students who probably were quiet in class, they're really participating because it's less threatening in the chat, as opposed to raising their hand and having everyone look at them. So I think, again, just reframing what is learning and connecting going to look like, and to temper your expectations and adjust those expectations as you go. Really, take a look at, do a survey that asks them about what's happening in their home. Take a look at that and get a feel for where students are at. So maybe if you're in a more affluent area, you're not struggling with students who have Wi-Fi issues, or they have all the technology that they need, but maybe they still don't see their parents. Maybe they're home alone the entire day,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the only face they get to see. So that's a lot right there. I had a student, I let the students go after the call, and I said, I'll be here if you want to answer questions, but you guys can leave the call and do your assignment. And I had about 30% just stay, and they just wanted to be in the presence of another person because they were home alone. So, there's that, and there's also, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm just thinking of everything that's that I've been having to address in teaching, but also rethink your curriculum and your pacing. You're not going to be able to get through everything, and you're going to need to come to terms with that. And it's okay. And people are freaking out. They're going to lose a year. They're going to be a year behind. And I'm thinking, behind what? What behind what? If everyone is behind, then aren't we all in the same place then? No one's behind and no one's ahead,
Yeah.
So I know I'm not going to get to everything that I normally do. And I started thinking, okay, so what's crucial? What can I do that will keep them engaged? So some of the stuff that might have been a little dry in person, not going to happen online, because they definitely will zone up. They will walk away from their device with the camera off and go get a snack. I have to think about what's crucial. And let's say we go back second semester and everything starts to seem a little more normal. So how can I set us up so that we can really dive in second semester or when we go back in person? And you just have to be flexible about that, and not expect that you're going to get through everything. And maybe your admin wants you to get through everything, but you need to think about your students and their needs first. And I know sometimes that's hard as a new teacher because you're on probation, but I think in the end, you will have a leg to stand on if you considered your students' emotional well-being and welfare, and you still taught them content at the same time. So it's this different kind of balance, and it's even more important than before to connect with your students.
Absolutely. I think connection now more than ever is just crucial in building those relationships, maintaining those relationships with your students. Kim, what has been your biggest win during the online teaching?
My biggest win has been getting, I would say, 99% of my students to show up every
Nice.
I mean, they're in certain classes, everyone shows up every day, and they say, I really look forward to your class. I would not miss your class. And that means a lot to me, because when we had distance learning during the quarantine, I wasn't getting that many kids showing up to class for a variety of reasons, but somehow I've managed to hook in these kids, and they look forward to it and they participate. I get a good amount of students doing their assignments, and they come in for office hours when they need help. And I'm really, I'm proud of myself, give myself a pat on the back for being able to get that kind of engagement. And again, a lot of it is thinking about their well-being first before teaching them reading and writing, because I can do that. And I can also teach them reading and writing with texts that are fun and are meaningful to them, as opposed to the normal canon. So I think a lot of teachers are going to feel a huge win and surge of energy if they can build that rapport. And it wasn't from day one. So don't think that, we hit it off within the first week. The first week was absolute chaos with technology. It was insane. And every day I sat there feeling like it was my first year of teaching, but I kept saying, it's okay, Kim, you have tomorrow. You literally have tomorrow to work it out. And there's no rush. And it's the first couple of weeks. And that's why I only plan fun, fluffy, getting to know you stuff that first week, because the technology is not going to work, and you guys need to be prepared for that.
Now, Kim, where can teachers go to get support, to find support during this time, not only during their first year teaching, but beyond those years? Where can they go? Do you have any suggestions for support for new teachers?
I think social media has been just amazing in terms of support. I learned so much from social media. I love Twitter. I don't post. I'm more of a lurker and learner than a poster. I also think that, there's a lot of good stuff happening on Instagram. Just don't get caught up in people with their forced smiles and their pretty classrooms and their perfectly organized desks, because that's not real. Maybe no, it's not real. They did it for the gram. I think that if you reach out to like-minded educators, like I said, especially on Twitter, I love Facebook groups. I know not a lot of new teachers are on Facebook, but I would join Facebook solely for the sake of being in a group. There's so much just unconditional support, free resources, people who they really want to help you. But if you're like, oh, it's Facebook, it's so outdated, do it just for that part of it. It doesn't have to be your parents' Facebook. You can use it in a different way. But the nice thing about social media is that it's ongoing.
That's wonderful. Now, Kim, where can my listeners go to connect with you on social media? Where can they go find the podcast so they can binge it until a new episode releases?
So on social media, it's just Kim Lepre, Lepre, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am not on TikTok. I'm a lurker there, just because I want to know what the kids are doing. I'm like, what is this TikTok phenomenon? And then my podcast is called Teachers Need Teachers, and it's pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this one, you can go and find mine on there as well. I also have a website, teachersneedteachers.com, and you can listen to some of my episodes there as well.
That's awesome. All right, friends. So go check out Teachers Need Teachers. Kim is another podcaster who's on the Education Podcast Network, and it's just a great place to go find more educational podcasts that help feed your teaching soul. Kim, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited to get this episode out to my listeners.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
This has been fun. All right, friends, remember, you have the edu magic within you.
And there you have it, Edu Magicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more Edu Magic, check out sfessage.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram @sfessage. Until next time, you have the Edu Magic within you.